And Dave, I'll let you know when to start talking.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, go ahead and start.
Well, good evening and welcome everyone to tonight's telephone town hall with Texas Democratic Party Chairman Gilberto Hinojosa and DNC Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz. My name is David Mills and I'll be the moderator for tonight's event. I'm thrilled you've decided to join the conversation. We're going to start in just a moment, but before we begin, I have a few quick points I need to make. On this call tonight, you're going to be able to tell us exactly how you feel just by using your voice and the buttons on your phone. For example, you can press 0 at any time to ask a question live directly to one of our special guests. So press 0 if you've got a question for Texas Democratic Party Chairman Gilberto Hinojosa or DNC Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Right now, we're in the process of dialing out to thousands of Democrats across Texas. So just stay on the line, and we'll be hearing from our speakers very soon. Most importantly, we want to hear from you. If you would like to ask a direct question to Texas Democratic Party Chair Gilberto Hinojosa or our National Democratic Party Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz, please press 0 on your telephone keypad right now, and you'll be connected directly to one of our volunteer operators. Again, press 0 to ask a question at any time during our call. If you've just joined us, good evening and welcome to tonight's telephone town hall. Texas Democratic Party Chairman Gilberto Hinojosa and National Democratic Party Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz will be taking your questions live in just a moment. I'm Dave Mills and I'm the moderator for tonight's event. Thank you for joining us. Stay on the line, and we will hear from our National Party Chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and Texas Party Chair, Gilberto Hinojosa. If you want to ask Gilberto or Debbie a question, press 0 at any time during this event. Again, press 0 to ask a question. And now, without further delay, let's begin. I'd like to introduce to you Texas Democratic Party Chairman, Gilberto Hinojosa.
Good evening, everybody. This is Gilberto Hinojosa, your chair of the Texas Democratic Party. I want to thank all of y'all for joining us today. It's a thrill to be with y'all on this phone call with so many Democrats across the state of Texas. And I'm really, really glad and very proud to have with us today our great National Party Chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who has been so helpful to the Texas Democratic Party. When I was first elected chair of the Texas Democratic Party a little bit more than 2 years ago, what I found out was we had about 4 staff persons working in the party, no money in the bank, and the confidence was low. It was difficult for me to get a return phone call. Since then, there's been a dramatic change with the Texas Democratic Party. We now have approximately 150 party staffers working all across the state of Texas, doing incredible work at every corner of the state of Texas. We've raised an unprecedented amount of financial support from folks like y'all, from people who believe that we can and will win and we will turn Texas blue. I'll be glad to take your questions in just a little while. But I'd like to just also say that between where we were at 2 years ago and where we're at today, it's not night and day. We have an opportunity this election cycle to not only elect a governor in the form of Wendy Davis for the great state of Texas. I mean, we are within striking distance, our polling is showing. But we're also, I think, making great strides in our campaigns for lieutenant governor with Leticia Vanderpute. She's doing a great job going across the state of Texas, getting people excited about this campaign and connecting with our base all over the state of Texas. All our statewide candidates are being repeatedly endorsed by state newspapers like the Houston Chronicle, the Austin Statesman, Dallas Morning News, and across the board. I haven't seen, to be honest with you, any of the major papers in the state of Texas endorse any of the Republican statewide candidates. It just shows you the difference of where we were at over 2 years ago and where we're at today. There's 20 days left in this election cycle, and as we speak today, we've got people all across the state of Texas working in our Texas Turnout program, where we're mobilizing a volunteer army to speak with as many voters as possible. I've just been given some numbers from the field, and as of today, our volunteers and staff have made 252,444 phone calls. We've knocked on 74,602 doors across the state of Texas and spoken with 41,033 voters. This is on top of what our other allied groups have been working on during this campaign. We've even registered about 2,000 new voters, although that's not within the purview of what we've been working on. These are incredible numbers for a party that 2 years ago just needed a tremendous amount of help. We've got 20 days left. We believe that this thing is going to turn our way, if it hasn't already turned our way, very, very soon. And we will have on January 1 or right after that a new governor in the state of Texas by the name of Winnie Davis and a lieutenant governor by the name of Leticia Vanderputte. So I'm very happy to be with y'all, and I'll turn it back over to David Mills.
I think our moderator just got off the line for a second. But I think we're going to start our first poll question.
I'm sorry, guys. Sorry about that. So, folks, if you like what the chairman had to say, you can press 7 at any time during this call to make a contribution on your phone keypad right now. Again, press 7 on your phone keypad, and you'll be transferred to an operator who can help make your donation tonight. I'm so excited to introduce our next speaker. She has been such an incredible friend to the Texas Democratic Party and to Democratic candidates across the country. Please welcome the Democratic National Committee Chairwoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Welcome, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Dave. And I want to thank, in particular, my friend Gilberto Hinojosa, who has done an absolutely phenomenal job as the chair of the Texas Democratic Party. And I'm so appreciative of being asked to be part of this call tonight. Gilberto, what an innovative, wonderful way to reach out to Democrats and voters across the state of Texas. Texas is a huge state, and using technology is something that the Democratic Party has led the way on in the last 10 years, and here's another example. And I'm just thrilled to be here to speak to strong Democratic supporters across the state of Texas this evening, and I'm looking forward to taking some of your questions in a bit. As the chair of the Democratic National Committee, I have a chance to speak with voters all over the country. And what I've found, and I'm sure when you've talked to folks across the state of Texas, you've found this too, it really always comes down to the same question. Voters want to know which candidate, which party has their back. And the Democratic Party has been fighting for middle-class families and working to expand opportunity for all Americans, really for years now. Republicans, though, we've seen, particularly over the last few years, are beholden to a radical Tea Party ideology and focused almost obsessively on wealthy special interests. And it's a stark contrast that we have been and will continue to make for voters over the next 19 days. One of the DNC's responsibilities is to help ensure that our candidates have the tools and the resources that they need to spread their message and to make that choice clear for voters. This year, we've focused on the DNC's voter expansion project. Democrats believe that our nation, our democracy, and our party, that we're stronger when more people participate in the democratic process. Our party is growing, and nowhere is that more true than right here in Texas. One of my favorite brags is when I am somewhere else in the country, outside of Texas, to talk about the incredible opportunities we have to expand the Democratic map, and that one of the best candidates for that map expansion is Texas. And all it takes is a little investment in making sure that we can get those voters registered who aren't registered now but are eligible, and then get them turned out to vote. Now, in Texas's 5 largest counties, just to show you what I mean, voter registration is up by more than 2%. We've also seen record-high voter registration numbers in the Rio Grande Valley, and that's thanks to the tireless efforts of Democrats and progressives who are committed to getting more people involved. What Gilberto and his team have been able to do at the Texas Democratic Party has really been remarkable. And that's, of course, because you also have an incredible team of Democratic candidates on the ticket who are appealing to voters all across the state. Now, I know a little bit about what it takes to turn voters out on Election Day because I have served in office for many years in my state legislature at first and now in Congress. But when I first ran for the Florida state legislature at 25 years old, I was in a primary against 5 other candidates. Nobody knew my name, and I knew that I was going to be outspent. But I made up in shoe leather what I lacked in connections and resources. And I knocked on every damn door in my district, 25,000 doors, and I won that election in a 6-way race with 53% of the vote. The odds were long, but I was committed to working hard and talking about the issues that were important to the voters in my district. And I know that turning Texas blue is going to take that level of determination and perseverance. And I want to assure you that I'll be with you every step of the way, as will Democrats across the country. And the good news is that you've got fantastic candidates who are running, like Wendy Davis and Leticia Van de Putte, who I so admire. What a team they are. A little girl power in Texas. We saw when Ann Richards was governor what some girl power in Texas could accomplish. And Gilberto and his team at TDP are investing the time and the effort to build that strong grassroots network that is essential to carrying that team to victory. So thank you for your continued support of our candidates and of Texas Democrats, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Our first question tonight. I want to remind everyone, press 0 to ask a question to our National Democratic Party Chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So press 0 to ask a question on your phone pad anytime. Our first question tonight comes from Charles in San Marcos, Texas. Charles has a question about our campaign in Texas generally.
Hello, this is Charlie Campisi in San Marcos, Texas, county seat of Hays County.
Hello, Charles. What's your question?
My question is, are the Democratic workers applying adequate resources to the potential voting power of the people of the Rio Grande Valley in Texas?
I can answer that question if I may, Madam Chair.
Please.
We have had in addition to, as I mentioned earlier, some of the efforts from our allied groups like Battleground Texas, we have had door-to-door canvassers in both Cameron and Hidalgo County working for the last few weeks and knocking on doors multiple times. We've been coordinating directly with Battleground Texas. I have been involved in Democratic Party politics in Cameron County and in the Rio Grande Valley since 1982, and as an elected official for 23 years. And I've never seen anywhere close to the turnout effort that the Texas Turnout Program and Battleground Texas has engaged in. I mean, just in the last 2 weeks, we've covered an enormous amount of ground here in Cameron County and in Hidalgo County. And you can see the results. We ran a little poll just here in Cameron County, which is a more conservative county than Hidalgo County. We ran a poll through James Aldrete, who is very involved in Wendy's campaign. Here in Cameron County, Wendy is winning somewhere above 15 percentage points. It probably is higher in Hidalgo County as well, and these efforts are paying off. So, and on top of that, we've got an ongoing phone bank. We've had a phone bank going for several weeks already, contacting voters. So, I think you can see a significant turnout here in Cameron County. I believe that the voter registration just here in Cameron County has broken all records all across the state of Texas. The other thing that we did that's interesting that we've never done before is we send out to thousands of senior citizens mail-in ballots, people who fit the profile of Democratic voters And then we've chased these ballots or the applications with phone calls from both the Cameron County Democratic Party and also the Texas Democratic Party in Austin, and we've seen a significant increase in ballots being submitted by those voters that we consider to be Democratic voters. Let me give you an example of how effective this program has been. We've also worked it in Harris County for the first time in history, and recent history, I guess. In Harris County, the number of mail-in ballots returned from the group of people that we send mail-in ballots to. We have more mail-in ballots that have come into Harris County than the Republican Party did. They usually be as 2-1 or 3-1 in the mail-in ballot category, but in Harris County we're beating them by a good margin. So, those efforts in Harris County, the Rio Grande Valley, Barrett County, Dallas County, El Paso County, I think are beginning to pay off, and you are going to see a significant increase in turnout. And I think the other thing that is important is that the excitement level for our candidates is increasing significantly. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, if you heard, I mean, our last polling shows Wendy Davis within 6 percentage points. I ran for the Court of Appeals in the year 1990 with Ann Richards. A few days before the election, she was 6 points down. And she was able to pull it off. I think we got plenty of time to make up those 6 points, and I think there's the best possibility that we've had in a long time to get a Democrat elected governor. Wendy's going in that direction. It's so bad, I think, for the Republicans that when she put out that ad was talking about the hypocrisy of Greg Abbott, the Republicans howled, not because there wasn't anything wrong with the ad, but because it hurt a lot. And so all that momentum is building all across the state of Texas, and we believe that that's going to significantly mobilize even more than before our base, and we'll see a good turnout.
That is great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Folks, we have something really exciting we're capable of doing on these calls, which allows a lot of folks to give their feedback right away. And that's to take polling questions live on the call, where you get to press a button on your phone pad and give us your opinion on a critical question facing the Democratic Party. Our first poll question tonight is this question: what issue do you think the Texas Democratic Party should focus on most? And the possible answers are: 1, healthcare costs; 2, equality and women's rights; 3, immigration; 4, jobs in the economy; and 5, energy and the environment. So the question: what issue do you think the Texas Democratic Party should focus on most? And simply press 1 for healthcare costs, 2 for women's issues and equality, press 3 for immigration, press 4 for jobs in the economy, and press 5 for energy and the environment. We'll report the results of that polling question on the call in just a few minutes. But now I'd love to take another question for our National Party Chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and our Texas Party Chair, Gilberto Hinojosa. Let's go right now to Scott in Fort Worth, who has a question about how to talk about social issues to independents. Scott, can you hear us?
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. I guess directly, my question to everyone is about, we're really bogged down in comparing candidates, but I think for a lot of independents, that push towards explaining these social changes, I think, that are affecting Texas and the country right now, as equality, as the social issue of our time, whether it be solidifying women's rights or same-sex marriage. More and more people are living like, whether they're in politics or not, are living like they have people in their nuclear family that, are of different sexual orientation or, identify or consider themselves socially liberal. So I think there's just a tendency to avoid that in the Democratic Party and just let it happen naturally. But I think now is the time to seize it in these 3 weeks, that we can actually, tighten our belt and actually stand up and not be around. This is before Thanksgiving, right? Before the Thanksgiving table, where we can talk to people we're comfortable with and explain that, I'm a Democrat because, ... And I think some direct messaging, some bullet points, the kind of things that the press get, the kind of things that commentators get, some resources like that for whether they're even just community leaders or people that are signed up to your email list. Those might be good direct and creative resources as well, explaining some social issues, planks, what we stand for.
That's great, Scott. I know that the DNC does a lot to move message out to Democrats across the country and to voters across the country. Madam Chair, do you want to respond to that with
Sure. Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. And Scott, thank you for your interest in participating in the call tonight. The issues that we know voters put at the top of their agenda, for this election and for the last several, are creating jobs, getting the economy turned around, making sure that we invest in a good education so that people who work hard and play by the rules have an opportunity to succeed, making sure that people have good quality access to affordable health care. And, the issues that are not at the top of the agenda are the issues that the Tea Party the Tea Party Republicans have continually focused on: defunding Planned Parenthood and cutting family planning funding out of the federal programs that ensure that people can carefully plan their families, making sure that they restrict women's access to make their own reproductive choices, fighting equal pay for equal work, and opposing the minimum wage. And, in particular, the minimum wage is obviously disproportionately represented by women workers. And so the very stark contrast and the clear choice over the next 19 days between Democrats who are focusing on the priorities that Americans care about the most so that they can continue to feel as though we're improving the economic situation in this country, as opposed to Republicans who are putting these social issues at the top of the agenda that are important to folks but aren't what is driving them to the polls. And helping them choose, who to vote for, ends up being really helpful when independents and swing voters are making decisions, because they look at the two choices that they have between a Republican who's focused on issues that are not going to help people reach the middle class, and Democrats who are. And so that's why our candidates are talking about those priorities and that contrast in races all across the country, and that's what Wendy and Leticia have been focused on as well.
That's terrific, Madam Chair. Thank you for that answer.
You're welcome.
Folks, if you're passionate about this election cycle and you'd like to support the Texas Democratic Party tonight, it's just as easy as pressing 7 on your keypad on your phone right now. If you press 7, you'll be connected with one of our live operators who can take your contribution over the phone tonight. And you won't be disconnected from the call. We can get you right back on the call after you make your contribution. So please press 7 if you'd like to give, and press 0 if you'd like to ask a question to our National Party Chair or our Texas Democratic Party Chair. And we'll be reporting the results of our first poll question really soon. But I've got a question coming in from Joseph in Houston. Joseph is a retiree, and it wants to ask a question about the Democratic policies related to retirement in the middle class. Joseph, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Welcome, sir. What's your question?
Oh, my question I like number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. What the Democrat Party will like to do for the people, and them. I love it. So I for that all the way. Well, that's it. I ain't got much to say otherwise. All I know,
Dave, because I know Joseph is a retiree and he's interested in retirement issues, it is really important that voters understand the difference on retirement issues. Republicans have consistently, particularly in Washington, supported turning Medicare into a voucher system and ending the Medicare guarantee as we know it. They've also, you've had members of Congress and Republican elected officials all over the country talk about privatizing Social Security and ending Social Security's guarantee for people who are younger than 55 years old. Democrats support strengthening Social Security and Medicare and making sure that safety net is always there for them. You've got at least a third of Social Security recipients who only have Social Security to live on and nothing else. And so we're very sensitive to that. We want to make sure that seniors, as they retire, can afford to make ends meet and aren't worried about where their next meal is coming from or having to choose between taking their medicine or buying their groceries and paying their rent. So that's another very important contrast between the focus of Democrats and the priorities of Republicans. And Republicans are just completely out of touch with the needs of folks who are just trying to continue to make a better way of life for themselves.
That's terrific. Madam Chair, thank you. And let me quickly report the results of our first poll question tonight. The question to the call was, what issue do you think the Texas Democratic Party should focus on most? The responses, 31% of the call responses said health care, the clear winner. Second was equality and women's rights. Third was jobs in the economy at 21%. Number three, energy and the environment at 12%. And number four, immigration at 10%. Thank you all so much for your feedback. What we'd like to do now, folks, is just remind you that you can press 0 at any time to ask a question and press 7 to make a contribution to the Texas Democratic Party tonight. We've got such a short time left until Election Day, and anything you can do to provide additional support to the Texas Party will mean the world to us. So press 7, and you'll be connected to one of our live operators. And I think that we're ready to go to another call from the audience. Let's go to Ed in Canyon, Texas. Ed has a question about Democratic presidents and the economy being superior to Republicans. Ed, can you hear me?
Okay, thank you for being able to ask this question. My question really is, right now, President Obama is not very popular, economic-wise, even though Forbes magazine has an article on September the 7th saying that President Obama has been the best economic president we've had. Now, the feeling that I get is that Obama has increased the deficit. Now, he has increased the total debt, say, $9 trillion while he's been in there. But the debt to GDP, which I feel is the most important criteria we can have for economic health of the economy, he has reduced on an annual basis the debt to GDP from 9.8% down to 2.8%.
That's absolutely right, Ed, and I'm glad that you pointed that out. This is Debbie Wasserman Schultz again. Number one, President Obama has had remarkable success, especially given where we started when he took over as president. President Bush handed him a record deficit, and he inherited the largest, the largest economic downturn that we've had in our country since the Great Depression. And now we've had, coming out of that economic crisis, 55 straight months of job growth in the private sector. It's actually the longest sustained period of job growth in history. And on top of that, as you mentioned, he cut the deficit from where it was when he started his presidency by 2/3. And so we've made a lot of progress, but what we recognize is that we have an opportunity to make even more progress if we could just work together. But Republicans have done everything they can, Ed, to throw obstacles in his path, to try to stop him from helping our economy move forward. I've not understood the obsession that the Republicans have about trying to do whatever they could to stop the president from being successful. I mean, they even shut the government down a year ago and cost our economy $24 billion. In fact, the government today is the anniversary of the government reopening from that government shutdown that lasted, I think, 13 days just a year ago. And that was all in the name of denying people access to quality, affordable health care. So, as I said when I first started my remarks, this election is going to boil down to one thing, one question that voters are going to ask themselves. They're going to look at the two choices they have, and they're going to ask themselves, which of these candidates has my back? Which of these candidates is going to focus on the issues that are the most important to me, and which of these candidates are going to just walk in lockstep with Tea Party extremism that doesn't put the economy and jobs first? And I think when they ask themselves that question, the choice will be very clear, and they'll elect in Texas Wendy Davis and Leticia Vanderput.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our next question, and folks, let me pause quickly and just remind everyone, press 0 tonight on your phone, and you can ask a question as well. But we really need every dollar we can raise tonight for our Turnout Texas program. Press 7 on your keypad right now if you'd like to contribute whatever you can afford to the Texas Democratic Party. Press 7, and one of our live operators will take your contribution right over the phone tonight, and we'll get you right back onto the call. You won't get kicked off the call if you make a contribution by pressing 7 right now. Our next question comes to us from Helen in Austin, who's volunteering at her county headquarters every week. Helen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Mine is more of a comment. When we mention Ann Richards, it was her sense of humor that comes through so strongly. And I have not seen any evidence of that in either Wendy Davis or Leticia Vanderput. And if there's any way that you can counsel them to inject a little bit of humor, that would really help our cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And I believe we actually have someone on the line who may be able to say hello and address what's going on the ground in her campaign. I'm so pleased to welcome State Senator Vanderput, the Democratic nominee for Lieutenant Governor, to the call right now. Senator Vanderput, are you with us?
I sure am, and good evening to everyone. I am so very thankful for your gift tonight, and it's the gift of time. And I did hear the question from the last caller. Let me tell you, the first time I met Ann Richards was on the campaign trail in 1990. You see, that was the year that I was first running for state representative. And, of course, our wonderful Ann Richards was running for governor. And she came up to me and my husband Pete, and she said, Leticia, why on earth would a woman with 6 small children and a business, because I was a pharmacist, want to run for the legislature? And I looked at her and I said, well, Governor, I got labor and delivery down. I thought I might try public school finance and health care and for the state of Texas. Well, we had a great laugh, and from then on, we had bonded. I know that humor is so important because it really is just what our regular everyday lives are. But we also know that in this particular race, and the race that my sister Wendy Davis has against Greg Abbott, you know, they are just constantly promoting falsehoods, and it is very serious. So when we're on the campaign trail, it has been so wonderful to see people all across this state who have real families, real concerns, and we're running that strong race. But I couldn't agree more that they need to see us as who we are. 2 girls who grew up in Texas, you know, Wendy in the Fort Worth area and me in San Antonio. And although our backgrounds are different, we are the same in our commitment to secure the future for this state. I certainly am so very grateful for this opportunity and want to thank you for everything that y'all are doing to make sure that we can get our message out. And it's going to be that story that is very historical about two women who not only stand up for Texas, but it's about that future. So thank you so much for that question.
Thank you, Senator. Folks, if you like what you're hearing from our great Democratic candidates, from our national party chair, from our great state Democratic Party chair, please press 7 right now to contribute to the Texas Democratic Party. Nothing could be more important than making sure we close out our Turnout Texas program strong, and it means so much to us to have your support. So press 7 on your phone right now to be your call be taken by a volunteer in our party headquarters, and we'll get you right back on the call. I want to bring on a special guest right now who has been working really hard day in and day out to run the Turnout Texas program. It's the great executive director of the Texas Democratic Party, Will Haler, who can give us a report from the field.
And Dave, thanks for introducing me. I actually have a question for Senator Vandepute. I know that the senator was so gracious with her time to jump on tonight and has a busy rest of the evening. But Senator Vandepute, I know starting next week, all across Texas, you're going to be visiting communities, and I think we'd love to hear about the Vote Leticia tour that's coming all across Texas. If you could share that with folks on the phone this evening.
Thank you, Will. We are just delighted and so excited. So our Vote Leticia tour, and it is an old-fashioned bus tour. You know, we're going to get to visit 30 communities in 14 days. It's 6,000 miles, and we had a great successful bus tour earlier in the campaign. And what we know is that all over the state there's so much energy and excitement about this election. And so there are small communities, of course, the major cities. I'm excited because we're going to continue to take our message. And what's helping us as well is those grassroots efforts. Texas Democratic Party is basically our great field team, and all of our allies are working together to maximize those votes. Now, Will, I've got to tell you, in all honesty, I'm concentrating so much on our low propensity voters, those communities that fall off during midterm elections. And I think the ability that I have to speak fluently in Spanish and do those pachangas and really get everybody energized, and we've seen it already, is going to be very helpful because we know we need those persuadable voters, but we need our base. And so I'm out there. I know that Wendy's going to be out there, all of our Democratic ticket. But this is a very ambitious one, and I figured we'll just sleep after our victory in November. But thank you for asking about it, and we will have that on the LeticiaVandepute.com website. And just so very thankful to the people who have given their precious resources so that we've got those Democratic Party staff members who are helping us organize and plan so that we can get maximum crowds at each of these locations.
Thank you, Senator. And we're about to debut our next poll question, folks, but before we do, I just want to give a big, heartfelt Texas Democratic Party thank you to our National Party Chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, for making time for us this evening, for being so generous with her time. Ma'am, I know that you're extremely busy and you've got a bunch of other stops tonight, but I just wanted to make sure you knew how much we appreciated it. And our poll question this evening, which is a big one, a big request for Senator Vandepute and Texas Democrats, is would you be willing, after hearing Senator Vandepute describe the bus tour and the stakes in this election, would you be willing to volunteer for the Senator Vandepute campaign and the Texas Democratic Party between now and Election Day? You can press 1 if you would like to volunteer for the Texas Democratic Party and Senator Vandepute. Press 2 if you would not. And press 3 if you'd like more information about volunteer opportunities. So very simple, press 1 to volunteer, 2 to say no thank you, and 3 to request more information about volunteer opportunities. and we'll report the answers, the response to that poll question as we move forward in the call. I think that what we'll do now is just remind everyone that you can also at any time press 7 to contribute and press 0 to ask a question. We've got a great question coming up here from Andrea in Largo Vista, Texas. Andrea has a question regarding the senator and Senator Davis's campaign and pointing out some of the things that are going wrong with Attorney General Abbott. Andrea, can you hear me?
Hi, thank you so much for letting me ask a question.
Of course, thank you for being patient.
I just wanted to say that I understand that we need to respond and we need to let voters know that Abbott is all wrong for Texas. And I applaud. I think that we've done a great job with that. I want to hear more about, a couple months ago I heard about Leticia Van Depute talking about all Texas high school grads being able to attend community college for free. I mean, that's a fantastic idea. That's life-changing. And I just would like to hear more plans like that so that when I'm talking to my friends and family about voting Democrat in November, that I just have more things to talk about besides, that Abbott's all wrong. I mean, we know Abbott's all wrong. It's obvious, and, I mean, the issues are out there. There's very stark differences, but, I would like to drive it home and be like, Leticia's got these great plans for our kids to go to school, and tuition is crazy. And I want to hear more. I think that there's lots of things out there. I just want to hear more about it.
Well, Andrea, this is Will Haler with the Texas Democratic Party, and I think that's an absolutely fantastic question. The thing that's so exciting, I think, for us about Senator Van Depute and Senator Davis is where they stand in terms of making middle-class Texans their lives a little bit easier and a little bit better. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have all across Texas when Republicans worked so hard to cut $5.5 billion from public schools is that it is hard to keep and retain high-quality teachers excited about what's in store for the future of Texas. And I think whether it comes from early childhood education to making sure that we're fully funding classrooms so that our class sizes are preparing students for the future, whether it comes from Senator Van Depute's proposal, the Texas Promise, to ensure that no high school student doesn't have the opportunity to go to a two-year school for free at no additional cost to Texas taxpayers. It's really about making sure that the next generation is better prepared than any generation before. It's about the fundamental commitment that we as Democrats have to make sure that the next generation has a better opportunity, a better chance, and a better life than this generation has. And I think that goes well beyond some of the proposals that both of the senators have proposed for education. It goes to making sure that we have good water all across the state and that communities don't have to board up because we haven't created a long-term vision for water resources throughout Texas. It goes to making sure that our transportation infrastructure isn't being torn down, that we're not replacing highways with gravel because of big trucks going through parts of the state. It means embracing the rich cultural diversity that we have of Texas and making sure that regions like the Valley are not isolated or not being called a third world country, that we can celebrate the great businesses that are being built, the hard work of middle-class Texans to build up that part of the state. And it means making sure that our hard-earned Texas taxpayer dollars, which are currently being sent to California and New York by our governor who refuses to expand Medicaid, that we can truly have a conversation about how to make sure we can expand Medicaid and that we can continue to build on the future of Texas. And so I think that our candidates, and not just with Senators Davis and Van Depute, but with Sam Houston running for Attorney General and Mike Collier running for Comptroller, who, is so concerned that in the past the Republicans have played games with an office that is essential to making sure our taxpayer dollars are spent wisely. And that's the reason why we lost all these teaching jobs in Texas. And so those are some of the reasons. I would encourage everybody on the call tonight to go to the websites and find additional stuff. We know that you're great supporters of our candidates, and that the biggest challenge that you all will face is talking about the candidates to your friends and family who maybe haven't made up their mind yet. And there's some great bullet points on all of their websites to take a look at.
That's great, Will. Thank you. Folks, let me remind you that the Texas Democratic Party is running a statewide voter contact program right now called Turnout Texas, and you can press 7 right now on your phone to contribute to that effort and make a big difference for our candidates up and down the ballot. Press 7 to contribute to the Texas Democratic Party right now, or press 0 to ask a question. Our next question is going to come from Arturo Acuna in Corpus Christi. Arturo has a question about turnout in this election.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I think part of my question has already been answered by Senator Van de Putte, and but it still bothers me that while we have great candidates and a great platform, and we have every reason to oppose the conservative Republican agenda of the last 20 years in the state, can we do more, or are we doing anything specific to increase voter turnout? I know that this program tonight is part of that effort, but in Nueces County, for example, we have a very bad record of getting people out to vote, although they believe and accept and are supporting the Democratic Party agenda. And that's my question, sir.
Thank you, Arturo. Mr. Chairman, would you like to respond?
Yes, Arturo. This is Gilberto Hinojosa. We understand that the problem that we've had over the last few election cycles has been turnout. I mean, Texas is not a red state. It's a blue state that is not voting, and primarily that not voting is happening mostly in the Hispanic community. And so we've initiated efforts to try to change that, to try to turn that around, and all across the state of Texas, including in Nueces County. We've been working hard with the local party organizations to train them to use the tools that we have available to increase turnout through the voter activation network, phone calls, through door-to-door canvassing, to organizing block captains and so forth. And we've, I think, made significant strides. I mean, in Nueces County, we've got door-to-door canvassers working as we speak today. And I think that you're going to see a big change in the turnout in Nueces County, and we're going to elect, for the first time in a few years, a new county judge there that's a Democrat. We've done this all across the state of Texas. I mentioned Harris County just a little while ago. We've knocked on twice as many doors in Harris County this election than we did in 2014. And I think the same thing can be said all across the state of Texas. So we get it, and we've been working hard in organizing county parties. All 254 county parties, I think, have had access to training that we've provided, somewhere around 70 or 80 training sessions, probably in the last 6 to 8 months, all across the state of Texas, with our staff going from El Paso, Texas, to San Angelo, Texas, to East Texas and South Texas, and all of Wichita Falls and so forth. So I think you're going to see a big change in turnout this election cycle, and that change and increase in turnout is going to result in Wendy Davis and Leticia Van de Putte getting elected this election.
That's terrific. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Folks, we're going to go to Mary in Lametta, Texas, in just a moment. So, Mary, stay with us. But we've got one last polling question for the night. I know that a lot of folks have been speculating, but wanted to get the folks on the call's reaction to this question. The question is, who would you like to see as our 2016 presidential nominee? Right now, the most rumors have been swirling around Hillary Clinton, so press 1 if you'd like to see Hillary Clinton be our 2016 presidential nominee. Press 2 if Vice President Biden is who you'd like to see as our 2016 presidential nominee. Press 2 for Joe Biden, or press 3 for Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, who's been rumored to be exploring a presidential run. So press 1 for Hillary Clinton, 2 for Joe Biden, 3 for Martin O'Malley, or 4 for another candidate. And we'll report those very gossipy answers at the end of our call. Right now, we're going to take another question. We're going to go to Mary in Lametta, Texas, who has a party building question.
I know that part of this question was answered in the previous question, but okay, let's just say that Wendy and Letitia don't win. What are we going to do between now and the next election to continue the momentum to try to get the people in Texas who are really a blue state that's voting red, to get them to continue to, what are we going to do to continue this momentum to get battleground Texas turned from red to blue? What can we do between now and the next election and the next election and the next election to make that happen?
Hey, Mary, this is Will Haler again with the Texas Democratic Party, and I think that's a fantastic question. You know, one of the things that we've done under Chairman Hinojosa across the state is build a program partnership with our county parties. It's the Texas Democratic Party Fellowship Program, which is putting boots on the ground all across Texas. In fact, we have more than 90 fellows working across Texas today to create a permanent infrastructure of Democratic voters, of list of volunteers, of people that we can engage with on a consistent basis. And I think that one of the things that we've seen out of the state party, and one of the ways that we've grown so quickly, is by having a rapid response communication infrastructure. We have the largest Facebook and one of the largest Twitter accounts. We are consistently working with press to get out the stories, whether our Democratic names are quoted or not. We're trying to get the story out across the Texas. And so what we need to do, Mary, is make sure that we're developing that infrastructure on the ground all throughout Texas, that we're working with our county parties and allies like Battleground Texas, Texas Organizing Project, to make sure that there's a permanent infrastructure and opportunities, that we're working hard next election cycle to help win school board and city council races and down ballot races across the state of Texas, and that during the legislative session we're providing the resources to our elected officials to not only get the message out during the session about what's happening in Austin, but to hold Republicans accountable back in their home district, to make sure that when they vote on bad policies that are going to impact communities across the state, that we're letting voters know across the state what the Republicans really stand for when they come to Austin, because that narrative changes so quickly from when they're going to leave in May of 2015 to when they're up for election again in November of 2016. And I guess the last thing that I'll say, Mary, is that we need folks like you and all the folks on the call tonight to make sure that they continue to message when Republicans attack the president or candidates or elected officials across the state, that we're standing firm on what Democrats believe and what your personal principles are, and that we're organizing in places across the state. This is a new state party that wants to do everything that we can to make sure that we are helping all across the state. And so I encourage you guys to call or email, go online, write on Facebook, anything that you need. And lastly, that you be the voice of your local area and make sure that you get out the message.
Thank you, Will. And remember, everyone, we don't have to wait to mail in a check. We don't have to wait for an event. We're so close to Election Day that we actually have the ability to take your contribution over the phone right now, simply by pressing 7. If you want to support the work of National Party Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz, our state Texas Democratic Party Chairman Gilberto Hinojosa, if you want to help Will run the Turnout Texas program and all the fabulous staff and volunteers all over Texas, you can contribute right now by pressing 7. Press 7 to give whatever you can.
And Dave, if we can just get 20 more people tonight to give, that's going to allow us to put more boots on the ground. And I know that the call is almost over, but before we go, Chairman Hinojosa all across the state ends his speech talking about how Democrats are going to look at this election on election night. And Mr. Chairman, I think that folks would love to hear from you. And like I said, if you could just press 7 tonight to make a contribution, we can help put more boots on the ground and make sure that we're running up these numbers, not only for the short term to make sure that we're successful on November 4th, this election, but to make sure that this permanent infrastructure that needs to happen across Texas to keep our state blue is happening. Press 7 to make a contribution. Mr. Chair, if you would like to close out tonight by telling us the fantastic story that you say about what Democrats are going to do on election night and how we turn our TV on. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Will. I've been preaching all across the state of Texas this, is that for us to win this election, we have to take it to a different level, that we all have to work harder than we've ever worked before, do as much as we can to help rebuild this party and to get our candidates elected election cycle. Wendy Davis and Leticia Vanderpute and all our statewide candidates are working their hearts out 7 days a week, 18-hour days sometimes, being away from their families, and they're doing it because they believe in this great state and our families. And so all of us have that obligation to work every single day between now and November the 4th and to give it all that we have, so that when we get to Election Day, after we've knocked on a lot of doors, after we've made a bunch of phone calls, after we've taken a lot of people to the polls, as many as we can, at 7 o'clock comes around, we finally stop our campaigning, and instead of going to a victory party that we know we're going to have all across the state of Texas, we just are so tired that we're going to go home and we're going to walk into our kitchen and fix a cold sandwich and get a drink and stand in front of the TV and turn on the TV and just for the hell of it, put it on Fox News. And while we're watching Fox News to see what the results are going to be, we're going to see Sean Hannity come out like he just saw a ghost, and he's going to look at the camera and he's going to say, folks, I have terrible news to report to you. In the red state of Texas, Wendy Davis has just gotten elected governor of Texas, and Leticia Vanderpute has just been elected lieutenant governor, 2 Democrats in a red state. What is this country coming to? And at that point, you can rest, you can go to sleep, because you're going to know, every one of y'all are going to know that you had everything to do with it. So let's help us out and get this effort done. Let's take it to a different level. Help us as much as you can, more than you've ever helped in a campaign, because that's what we're all doing. That's the effort that we're all putting into it, and that's what's going to make this state blue again.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to everyone who stayed with us for the hour tonight. You can still press 7 right now to contribute to the Democratic Party in Texas, to make a huge difference with just a very few days left before the election. Can press 7 right now to make a contribution, and one of our operators will take your call at party headquarters. And let me quickly report out the results of our polling question. We asked, who would you like to see as your 2016 presidential nominee? 70% of the respondents said Hillary Clinton, 10% said Vice President Biden, 4% said Governor Martin O'Malley, and 16% said other. So thank you for that input and that speculating with us on that. We were also, thanks to your responses, able to recruit dozens of new volunteers for Senator Vanderpute's campaign for the party tonight. Thank you so much for everything you're doing, for what you have done, what you will do between now and the election. Thank you to all of our special guests, and have a wonderful evening.